Hello and welcome back to the 360 Perspective podcast, episode 2, season 2. Yay! So excited to just, continue with this journey of season 2. Remember, once again, we are on YouTube, so you can go ahead and just check out this video on YouTube at the 360 Perspective podcast, as we just go through today's conversation. And in the last episode, we were talking about just navigating through adversity or failure. And today's episode is, partly a continuation of that conversation, because one of the key things that each one of us needs while navigating through failure or adversity is a strong support system or a social support group. And that's the conversation that we are having today. And once again, I am joined by my good friends, Ashley and Baraka. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Yeah. Thanks, guys, for being here today. The last episodes, you guys got to share your insights, just about failure and adversity. And you shared, part of your journeys and your stories about that. And today's episode, I think one thing that each one of us can agree to, having a strong support system, I feel it makes it easier to navigate through a hard or a difficult season compared to not having a strong support system. And I know there's research actually has shown that having a strong support system has many positive benefits, such as higher levels of well-being, better coping skills, and a longer and healthier life. And it's also shown that social support can reduce depression and anxiety. And in the last episode, we did share, just whether it's heartbreak or, losing money or whatever it is, the reaction that comes out of it, you almost feel like, you're dying. You did share about feeling like you're dying. There are all these body reactions that result, that come about as a result of, just whatever challenge it is that you're facing, so anxiety, depression, there are different symptoms that can come about while navigating through such a season. And for me, once again, having a strong support system, I've come to realize over time, it plays such a huge key role in helping me navigate that season, and more so bouncing back compared to if I never had any strong social support system. So I'd love to hear, do you guys just honestly, from where you are, do you believe that you have a strong social support system, or is it in the works? And who do you think constitutes that part of your social support system?
I thought you'd be racing to answer the question. So I want to give you the chance.
That for me, this is a very tough topic to navigate. Just because I've been on that journey of trying to figure out what is a support system, what does it look like, who are the people who constitute my support system, and I think I would say it's been very difficult, because I think we had this conversation earlier about, in your difficult season is when you know who's there. You're like, if you have a huge community of people who
in
are
moments of
you,
crisis.
In moments of crisis, but funny enough, in my moments of crisis, I've not seen a support system. I think for me, crisis, I've had to navigate a lot of crisis alone. And
were people around you aware?
That's the thing. Like, you have people who are aware, but I think there's a time I remember I went through a difficult season, and I think after a while, I think I said, let me, because I used to have a group of friends. You hang out very often. You laugh together. You do a lot of things together. You think you do life together, and then one day I said, guys, I don't think we are truly there for each other. Like, honestly, we're not truly there for each other. And I remember within that group of friends, because I started that conversation, and it brought up a heated conversation, because people have these ideas of being there for each other is laughing with you. And I was like, bro, that's such a skewed perspective of being a support system to somebody. I mean, you can laugh with anyone. I can meet with somebody today and I laugh with them, and we'll have such a good laugh. I'm a comedian. I will make you laugh. And I remember somebody in the group saying, she confessed that she'd been suicidal for a while. I mean, we've been laughing with you. Does that mean we are there for you? And I remember I used to feel like something is up with this chick, Like people say, oh, she's just introverted, blah blah blah. But for me, I was like, there's something that is wrong. But then you also find in friendship circles, you'll realize that friendship circles also have mini circles within them. So you'll find like you're a whole group of friends, yes, but there are people who are closer. And I think over the years of my life, I think I've learned how to sort of like pick that out, so that you're not third wheeling in people's inside friendships. And for me, I was very surprised that even the people in her inside friendships, do you know, like they were not
aware.
Yeah. And I was like, and for me it was, and I know people would say she's the one who didn't open up, but then I was like, have people created avenues and spaces for vulnerability? Because the reason why sometimes people don't share is because they're not sure how these people will react. And it's not them reacting in terms of being judgmental, but how will they handle my emotions? So have we created an avenue where we can handle each other's emotions? And I think that's such a huge problem. And for me, I think it stems from a culture, family background, and all these things. But there are people who've mastered it. And I want to say something that is, some people wonder why I say this all the time. But when I was living abroad, like I went to school with a tight-knit group of people. We were 20 people in one course.
The cohort
Our cohort were only 20 people. We did life together. We traveled together. We traveled this world together. And that means we, like, you know, at the end of the day, I remember saying, we didn't have a choice but to be friends. Like, we didn't have a choice but to be family. And we saw each other in our most vulnerable moments. You know, when somebody is so sick, they can't even stand up, and all they're doing is just, you know, puking, and people are there, you know, cleaning up all these things. Normally, these are things people don't do. They're like, oh, yeah, so, Konya, you don't have somebody to come and do this. They just want to be there when somebody has already taken you to hospital, and then they're coming now to be like, oh, pole sana, you know, we are so sorry. Here's a bunch of flowers and stuff like that. But who do you call when you're in that space where you can't even wake up from where you are? And for me, I think that group of friends, it's not that we're getting along all the time together, but we had also learned how to give each other like proper feedback in a really nice way. Like, yo, I don't like what you did to me yesterday. I don't like, and it built our friendship in such a way that up till today, it's been so many years, but we're still friends. Because like for us, it was, we don't have a choice, guys. The things we've seen about each other, the way we've been vulnerable about to each other, we've cried in front of each other, we've been frustrated with each other, and we've been very open with each other. We don't have a choice but to be friends for life. And then I came back and I felt like there's a friendship deficit. Like like here, I felt like,
I can relate.
Yeah, like, you can relate because you're like, you come back and you're like, hey, we have such surface level friendships here. Why is it that I'm finding it so hard to open up to people and say, this is what I'm going through? Or how are they able to handle my emotions? Are they able to handle? So now what people do is that because they don't have that, they look for somebody to date, and then they dump all the emotions on the person they're dating. And sometimes that's why you find
become dump sites.
Relationships can become, like, I remember one time somebody I can't say who he is to me because he's a relative. Let me just say he's a relative, because if I say the person will know, it will see what I'm talking about. But there's a time we're having a very honest conversation about dating, and he said, yo, me, I love this girl kabisa, like there's no doubt in me that I love this girl, but I'm so tired of handling her problems. I'm so tired of just being the dumping site for her problems. And it hit me, this chick probably doesn't have a group of friends or a support system. So what does that mean? Her boyfriend becomes her support system, her everything. And there's that aspect of relationships where, of course, there has to be vulnerability, you know, because that's how relationships thrive. When you know you have one person you can be absolutely open and honest with, and you can navigate this life with. But then also you forget that this person is a human being, and at one point they also don't have the emotional capacity to handle everything that you bring to them. And that's why we are encouraged to have, therapists, good friends, and all these things. And so for me, I think in that regard, like I even realized that like 2 months ago, I went through a difficult period. I was held up in my home for almost 1 month. And I remember when the day I finally felt like I was getting out, I remember leaving the house. I think I was just driving around Nairobi for no good reason, I was just so happy to be out. But then it hit me. I think I met a friend of mine, and he was like, I'm so sorry we weren't there for you. And I was like, I don't know, it just hadn't hit me. But he said it, and that thing just... I don't know, it just crushed me when he said, I'm so sorry we weren't there for you. Like everyone just went on with their lives as if you were doing okay. And for me, I think that's when I just sat down and I was like, hey, support system. And then, for me, I'm like now the support system in the house, like in my family. Everyone comes to me and they're like, oh, this, oh, that, oh, this. And I remember, I think it was this week, I was having this conversation with my brother, and I think I just burst. I was like, guys, I am so tired. I am so emotionally just, you've pumped me so much. And I don't have people I don't feel like I have people who've created the emotional ambience for me to come in and talk about these things with them. And my brother was like, guys, sorry, I didn't know that. But I think that's the thing. Like for me, I'm like, support systems are so important. But I don't feel like I'm at a place where I can say I have a full support system. I navigate a lot of things on my own, and I just figure things out.
Okay, interesting perspective. Okay, Baraka.
I think maybe picking from Ash, there are sometimes I feel like I go through things by myself. Other times, what I've done is sort of like embrace devolution. So there are guys for this problem, there are guys for this situation, and so on and so forth. So I have a community of guys for when I am going through a financial crunch. The guys who will know, the guys who I'll trust them to do that out, sort that out, or help me deal with that.
Can I say something about that? It's so interesting. I noticed that about men, that is not quite there about women. Like the men are able to say, Yomi, I have friends who, when I'm in a fix financially, I can call. Women, hey, that's why women now go take loans and stuff like that, because they're like, sasa me, everyone's like, me staki, ukiniomba pesa staki.
And I think the devolution system is a lot of wisdom, but anyway.
So there are guys for that kind of problem. The guys who, when I'm dealing with like relationship drama, there's that community for that one. They might not even know I'm broke or I've made 3 million that day, but they're like, my heart is broken. I'm confused about this chick. I think for different things have different people. I think for me, like you've said, in seasons of adversity, there are seasons where people have shown up and shown up strong. There are times where they haven't. So for me, it's topsy-turvy. Last year got a really, really bad bout of COVID. Bad. And now from a physical point of view, now I knew this one was it. So it was even amending my will. I was like, Nimenda.
Oh my God.
I need to add you to that will, by the way. I need to add you somewhere.
Please.
Yeah, now I remembered. But when I was doing that whole thing, guys really showed up. Like the guys who, I'd say like my people. Yeah. I had everything I needed. They showed up in terms of sending me medicine, sending me
all
the smart
to die in my house.
Fruits. But fruits I was the one who's giving out fruits now because there were too many.
Wow.
Right? There were too many. Had an overabundance of everything during that season, And I remember I told a very small community of people, but of course now word spread and other guys knew. And at that point, I remember even like for a cousin of mine, so like, all I want is, like I really like the Java peppermint mocha, and I like the choc chip muffin. I just want, but I told her to get me a dawa and a choc chip muffin, and that's all I wanted. And let me tell you, she pulled everything to make sure I got it. And I loved that season. I hated COVID, but I hated I loved the support I got. But the seasons where maze, hakuna mtu, you know, there's no support. And it's horrible. It's horrible. And I think for me, I've learned one, not to put too much hope in other people coming through. I think I'm the one who's the supporter.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one who's like, what do you need? I've got you. You know, is it money? Is it a listening ear? Is it whatever? I got you. But very many times, I find like I don't have that in return. Now, granted, there are times when I don't disclose. And I sort of like expect you to know.
Yeah. I was about to get to that, because I think especially for people who are always giving help to other people, which I don't know whether it's an issue with self-sufficiency or just the whole independence, or sometimes not wanting to appear weak, or I mean there could be other like many factors that can influence that. But I realize a lot of times the problem sometimes I feel like it lies to you not opening up over what you're going through. So your assumption is people should know, or they ought to know, or maybe you've disclosed to only one or two people, but everyone else should know, but they're not aware.
So let me tell you a character flaw about me. If I approach you one time and you can't help me, I don't approach you again.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
But
I think it's the expectation.
If expectation, one time. So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I remember the season of my life where money was just everywhere but my pockets. So I was very cash light. I didn't have cash. So pesa iko inji iko mali but sina do. And I remember my rent was coming up. I had bills to pay.
Yeah.
And I called the guys for chums. I know guys who tell, you know, I'd even planned to do something with the money. First, let me tell you, you cannot dictate what people are going to do with the money. That's up to them. But if I approach you one time and you're not able to, and there are guys who are genuine, can't help. But the answer, I feel like this is just an excuse not to give money. That's fine. I'm never asking you for money in my life, you know. And so what happens is then, when I need money, I know I have one less person to ask for. So you find maze, nikopo tu kwa hawata stoki, ndo asinifungia nyumba or whatever, and people have not come through to help me. On the other hand, I know for myself, and it's I find it very unfair. That day I was with someone who, there's a point where I was so stuck, I needed chums. And I'm not talking about life-changing money. I needed like 5 Gs for something, maybe pay Wi-Fi or something. And I just didn't have cash on me, you know. It's one of those, like, you know, Kevin Hart is going to take 3 or 4 business days to move money from me. Then my bank account is set up. It was one of those things. And I need internet now. And I'm calling this person and they're like, no, I don't have money. And first I think even they made me feel like I felt very foolish for asking. I bumped into them that afternoon buying a set of headphones for 40 Gs. And I asked them, ala, umefungua studio nini? So no, I just saw these things ziko on offer. Azuzi 50K ziko sasa 40K. So nimemwa nitabuy. I just gave for 5 Gs that morning. Hata sijui ni aje Mungu tulipatana naye.
God will show you something.
Lakini Mungu ni nani? And like I said, you can't dictate how people use their chums. It's up to them, you know. It's not that they owe me money.
Yeah.
So for me, what I found is when I've created those like devolutions or those communities or those counties, so to speak. So the county ya Kirinyaga ni story ya pesa. County ya another county? Mombasa, I'm just forgetting counties. Ni mambo ya roho, you know, and things like that, you know. So I know when I'm doing this thing that, however, that said, I think for me in my life, I could say maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
Other ones who, I have a friend who's, people would even think he's my best friend.
Yeah.
But he's a very judgmental friend.
It's good to have judgmental
so
friends.
No. And in this way,
I'm not for judgment. Like,
no, in this way, there's certain things I can't go and tell him.
Okay.
Because the first section
Fair enough.
is like soul quafikiri. No,
you don't want people.
My guy, let me tell you, I know I should have had savings. I just don't have savings at this moment. That's not what I need.
Yeah.
And in this life I've learned, you need to give guys what they need, not what they deserve. That's what I'm selling is what I deserve.
Yeah.
So I found only 2 people.
Yeah.
There's can I do like shout outs to them?
Yeah.
The guy called Charles. Charles Soita. Soita is a guy who namtanga P2. Watu wajua P2, mnajua P2 ni nini?
Wow.
Yeah, of course. It's when it's when things have sasa zimeharibika nini na niko pabaya, he'll come through. Whether I've killed someone and I need someone to as an alibi, tuseme tulikuwa pamoja.
Wow.
Whether for real. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
And he'll sort me out and then we'll figure it out later. That's number 1. Number 2 is a girl I got introduced to lovely girl introduced to by Trish.
Oh yeah, my cousin.
Yeah, so Trisha's cousin TJ is like my younger sister, and I love her to death. And TJ is a person who she laughs at my folly and my foolishness, but she'll give me an ear. She'll not make me feel dumb, and if she can't, she'll see what she can do to solve the situation. You know, and for me, I feel like those who are the ones who can tell you like through thick and thin are my support system.
I'm glad you have. I won't say I don't have like complete.
Yeah. I know. I was gonna get back to that.
I feel like if the last time I pointed out who supports me, the rest of my friends just went ballistic on me. I was like, everyone was like, oh but, and I was like, surely guys. But I have two friends. I think you mentioned the COVID thing, and I remember I had COVID. I think last year March. And there are friends of mine who sent food to my house. You know, they're like, we know you can't cook. Here's food sent over. And I think that for me just like, and that there are two friends. We don't talk often.
Yeah.
But like for them, like I know these girls, like if they know anything is wrong, the first thing they say, how do we support you? How can we come through for you? And for me, even they know, like I really do treasure their friendships. For them, I can bend backwards.
Yeah.
I can do whatever they need because I think we are at a place, like I think I met one of them last week at a random gathering, and because we are those people who know many people in Nairobi, and everyone's like, oh, you guys know each other. And she was like, yeah, we don't talk often, but we are very good friends. And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, this girl is always like, whenever you need something, she's like, yo. She even helped me get a job when I didn't have a job. She's the one who was like, I've pushed your CV. When other people are like, you know what? Oh, I'll pray for you. And you know somebody is praying for you and they have a way they can sort you out.
I pray for this girl like all the time. So unappreciative.
Wow.
Or somebody has like the ability to, like I remember a friend of mine who would have so many side hustles and side consultancy gigs, and that's what I'm good at, consultancy. But ile kukwambia, yani you have nothing, ile kukwambia, let me push something for you. Like I mean, if you're getting like 2.5, you can give me 5 and get the 2 right for yourself, right?
Kwa shangani biashara gani mnani? 2.5, 2.5 ile biashara gani?
Consultancy, what that is.
2.5.
Yeah, but I get.
Yeah, but you see, you get what I'm saying. But you see, that's the thing. Like, and for me, I think now that I started telling God, I know, I feel like I have a deficit in terms of people like I can truly rely on. And I'm also that person, like Baraka, the way you say, I'm that person who, if you call me, I'll show up ASAP. Like if you say I need you somewhere, wherever time, I'll be there. Whatever you need. I remember a friend of mine was going through a hard time and was not in the country, and she still called me and she knew I was not in the country, and I was like, I'm gonna look for ways to make sure whatever is happening for you is sorted. Wherever you are, we'll figure out things to sort you out. Well, and when I come back, we figure out how to meet. We see whether you're okay. And she knows she's ever called me at 3 a.m, and she knows if she calls me, I will pick up. I will pick up because I've learned if I feel like I don't have people I can fully depend on, then I need to be that person that that people can depend on. But also to a point, there's a point where it reaches you're like, hey,
you need a break. I think every human being needs.
It's the break. It's you're like
Draining.
Reciprocity kwapi. I know we are not the US and Kenyan government. Reciprocity, but you know.
Yeah, but I think I'll get to that, but let me just echo what Baraka said. I think 2 things that really stood out. Just that whole place of well, you called it devolution. Devolving your friends.
Devolving funds.
But I think for me, as you grow older, you realize the whole importance of that not all your friends will show up for you at the same time, and carrying the wisdom to know that you have to establish. So for me, one of the things I've done, I do take time to just sit down and reflect over my life, my friendships, just different aspects and areas of my life, which is part of self-awareness. But I think just sitting down and analyzing and seeing, grouping your friends, knowing that, if I need good vibes and, good vibes and hanging out, these are the type of friends that I can call, you know. If I need a solo traveler, if Ashley's, like people who love to travel, these are the kind of people that I can call, and I know for sure that trip is going to happen and they won't leave me hanging. If I need wise counsel or, motherly advice, these are the people that I can go to. If I need, money, these are the people that I can go to. But I think it's very imperative for each one of us to just take time and analyze and sit down and be able to categorize your friend and get yourself out of that expectation of thinking all your friends ought to show up for you anytime you are in need, because I don't think that that's the reality.
But I have something I read somewhere about that and expectations, and it hit me. And somebody was saying when you get a job, you have that's why you look at the JD, you look at the contract, because you have expectations of this job. I'm going to do this 1, 2, 3 things for you, and you're going to fulfill my duties by paying me 1, 2, 3, giving me 1, 2, 3 benefits, nini. And the person said, why is it that when it comes to human relations, we are quick to say, no expectations, no disappointments? And I used to date somebody who that was their mantra. No expectations, no disappointments.
Let me tell you, people who dated Ashley.
Are you trying to hint something at me and say, don't expect anything from me so that you're not disappointed?
And I don't know. But for me, if you ask me, I think that's a level of immaturity, really, because in life, everywhere, there has to be
expectation.
But I think also communicating that expectation, I think even in friendships, which is the other question I was going to throw, in terms of authenticity. But I think what I also wanted to point out as the second point is I also realize that people show up for you differently depending on the type of crisis that you're going through. So if it's a money crisis, especially money, I don't know whether it's trust issues, but then money crisis, you realize people are a bit reluctant, but and
it's different things. Here's the thing. There's some things which were easier for me to do, and they're not as easy for Ashley to do. And actually people show up at different, and also for certain seasons. I feel like God also brings people for certain seasons, So someone was there when you're doing like, I remember someone who came into my life when I was moving from one job to another job, and really between me resigning and having a lot of self-doubt and me starting a new job where I have no field in this tech world, and I'm getting in as a newbie, as a novice and everything, and this person was like there to cheer me on and everything, and then umse akaenda. Are you in my life?
They played their part.
But then I'm home say, your season will come for that season, and that's the support I needed in that season. Everyone around me didn't know what was going on, and everyone like, you do well at Jobo, but the imposter syndrome I had, the fear of just living where, but this person was able to come there. So also feel like God brings certain people
at certain seasons.
I think I've had people like that, and I think especially in terms of working with me spiritually, I've had people like that who've just appeared in certain seasons, like God sent them then in certain seasons of my life, and they helped me navigate those seasons spiritually, and then
they exit.
Or
they're no longer
they're
there.
not. It's not that you're not friends. You talk, but they're not constantly in your life.
Close,
and I feel like over the last 2 years, but this one I'll be very honest, in terms of spirituality, I feel like over the last 2 years, God has sent like 2 people or 3 people who have been sort of like my anchor spiritually. There are things that you need somebody to call on heaven for, to pray for you. And there are people I know I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm just like, I'm losing it. Please stand in the gap for me. Because there are times, even as a Christian, I mean, it's not every day you have the oomph in you to talk to God. There are times you also not understanding what's going on, and you just need somebody to stand in the gap for you. And I think for me, that I've had 3 friends who I can just text or call, even in the middle of the night, and say, hey, please pray for me. One's all the way in Canada. I don't even know how we navigate the time zones, but somehow we do. I'm now starting to navigate that space with my mother. You know, remember, I was like, I feel like at one point, it's like different generations. This woman's going to be very judgmental and stuff like that. But I think now we are sort of building off a friendship between the two of us. And she's also somebody who I can call and say, Aki mom, I'm overwhelmed. Please do what you do best, and that's pray for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's been very important. And I think also lately I met a lady who's older, because I think I've also been trying to figure out how do I know you have no problem making friends who are way older.
I know.
Yeah, that one I think also influenced because of your elder brother and stuff like that.
Also my charm, my good looks, but go on.
Baraka nyenyekea.
But I think for me that's been something that I've been very keen on, in terms of having people who've had much more experience on life.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the whole place of also just devolving your friends and knowing that you
this
have
one does this
for wise
you.
counsel and I think especially support, you'll realize sometimes the older people show up for you more
in a different way, in a very
unique way.
Unique
but
way.
I think also I was also going to say, it's so funny, but from my observation, now that you guys have talked about having COVID and people showing up for you, I don't know, it's like at your point of death, I don't know that that's the reality. Everyone, and like literally everyone shows up.
But not everyone.
Well, but yes.
But
also because
for me, it's like 2 people who show up. Actually, but I'm happy that they do.
There's someone who I thought and I really hoped would show up,
but they never
and they didn't show up.
I think it actually varies. I think it actually varies. But I think also that place, because for me, I was going to ask you, I think we were friends by then, but I wasn't aware that you had COVID. I genuinely wasn't aware.
I think I made a joke and I said I have a bad homa.
Surely, now you see.
But I think
we were supposed to assume.
There was a lot of stigma around.
Assume you had COVID. No, even as you had that homa and we got over it. But I think because that was going to be my next question, in the place of authenticity, because then if you're going to establish like a really good support system, but also be the ones who are there for other people. Where's the place of authenticity in terms of, are you being genuine with your friendship? Are you being honest about your expectation? Like if I expected you, Ashley, to show up for me when I was in hospital and you never showed up, and now I have this grudge, every time you're hanging out, I'm like, I'm avoiding you and what, I don't know. Like, I think there's also that place of, being mature enough as adults and being able to navigate such conversations of saying, hey, I expected for you to show up for me, or maybe I had extreme expectations of you and I was a little bit disappointed. And you'll be surprised to find that the other person, they genuinely didn't show up they chose not to show up for you. You actually, when you dig deeper, you realize, oh my gosh, they were not maybe aware, about it, or if they were aware, the whole assumption plays, where people assume, Ashley is a very social person, and so she has these thousands of people.
There's a lot of assumption around that when you're, especially for people like us who are extremely extroverted, and we know so many people assume you're sorted, and then at the end of the day everyone is assuming that, and then you're not sorted. But there's also the other thing of, and I think this is something that I think when I talk about my friends that I was with abroad, and we had cultivated that thing of coming and saying, I like having that honest conversation and saying, I think you should have showed up for me in this manner. And I think that's something that one thing when I came back home, I struggled with, because I was like, are people at a place where they are able to have honest, tough conversations? And that's why, for me, I think it was like, if you don't show up, I just keep quiet and I move on with life. But I think, like, if you're, like, for the people that you truly value as friends, I think it's important to have that conversation and say, and I think that's when my friend said, I'm sorry we were not there for you. Because I think he was listening to me talk, and he was like, hey,
this thing was deep.
It was so deep.
Yeah.
I'm like, because he was like, I'm not seeing.
And they didn't understand the magnitude of it.
Yeah. They're like, but as we thought you're okay. So you're usually okay. Where are you clear? And I'm like, yeah, but you never know. In my house, I'm like, and then I'm out here and I'm like,
I'm learning friendships and relationships break because of unmet expectations. Right? And unmet expectations are characterized by 2 things. Either they are unexpressed, so I don't know. For like, you like to be, like, if you're hanging out with Ashley and Trish, you want to be picked up. You like to be picked up. Right? So I come and pick you up, we go, and then I come and drop you. Me, I'm a guy for to Nepali. So I don't know. And I'm happy to pick you up. But I don't know. So you're like, this guy never picks me up. I don't know. So you're mad. So it's one is unmet.
Unmet.
Is unexpressed rather.
Unexpressed.
The other one is, do I say unfair or things which are unachievable expectations? So tell me, like, same example. You like to be picked up or whatever, but where we're meeting, say you live in Kilimani, right? And we're going for this hangout in Kikuyu, and I live in Kikuyu.
Yeah.
So you want me to drive to Kilimani and pick you, and then come back to Kikuyu? I think also it's a bit of an
unrealistic,
unfair.
unrealistic
It's a bit of an
expectation.
unfair
Yeah.
expectation. May have expressed, but also it's a bit. I'm like, so I'm asking myself to even want to hang out with this person. That's an example, and that's of course that's what happened. I find myself as Baraka, a character flaw I have. I find it very difficult to have tough conversations. I'm not the best at tough conversations, so I'm not confrontational. And even when I feel like an expectation has not been met, I just
move on.
I just move on.
Yeah.
I like that you didn't use the word ghost.
No, it's
just
true.
move on.
You move
Because I don't
on.
ghost. I don't even think I ghost you. I'm alive. But I just move on.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, and I mean,
Ghosters.
I think
Professional
people,
ghosters.
I know what's happened in your life because I'm not there. But
I've had that conversation with Trisha about ghosting because me, that's what I do. Okay.
yeah,
I
and
just
me, by
live-
the way, I just
live
move.
like you don't
I just
exist.
move. I will not hate you. I will help you when
Yeah.
you need me. But I'm not going to approach you for anything and just
Yeah.
move on.
But it also depends with how close you are to the person. Because for me, I feel like if that person is a close friend, for me, I'd rather take the risk of having that honest conversation.
That's great, and that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Me, I'm telling you, that's the right thing to do. Like, I'm stuck with
If I
ground.
consider as
Kwa
friends,
ground.
like
That's what I'm
Baraka,
telling
me,
you,
I'll
kwa ground.
approach you.
Yeah,
and
you
we'll
will
have that
approach me. You will
conversation.
approach me. That's fine. And that's the right thing to do.
You'd rather drop our
And I'm
friendship.
not telling you, I'm saying mine is not the right thing to do. I'm just telling
Yeah.
you what is happening. I'm not saying this is the right
It's
thing
also
to
a place
do.
of understanding
yeah.
that's
I'm
my
just saying the
biggest-
truth.
And I need to
Your
work on
biggest
it.
I am
Slow.
terrible
Yeah.
Even me, I'm terrible
at
at it.
confrontation,
Yeah.
at everything. For me, it's so much simpler to pretend it didn't
doesn't-
happen.
funny
You don't
enough,
exist.
When
It's
it's in a
dissolved too.
relationship, I'm the opposite.
You're confrontational.
Ah, my goodness. We're in a relationship. We are solving this issue now. But when we are not in a relationship, I am just there. I'm like, okay.
No
But
attachments.
when you're in a relationship, I'll be like, yo, what's happening here? We're not sleeping before
good for
this
her.
thing is
Yeah.
Me, I get very sleepy. So
Yeah.
I just want to sleep. I don't think anything is
Wow,
burning that can be
Baraka.
solved in the
Wow.
morning. But that said, I think for me, it's very tough. My expectation for me, for all friends, is just to do the best you can.
Yeah.
I think for me, as all human beings, do the best you can.
Yeah.
And for me, I judge you on that premise.
Yeah.
If you had the information and you didn't it was not the best you could have done.
Yeah.
Friendships can be very inconveniencing. They can be very inconveniencing, but that's what comes the territory.
That's what is, yeah. That's,
You know.
that's friendship.
So you can't say, and I mean, if Ashley lived in Canada and she was going through a very hard time, and for some reason she can't come, and we can't Skype, we can't do anything on WhatsApp call. Like for me, at the time, if I consider myself one of her closest friends, I'm trying to see who do I have in Canada that can go and help her.
Yeah.
Can I go to Canada myself? And we even start now. Let's thinking about getting
Hallelujah.
money and everything. Let's angalau apply visa unyimwe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
No.
ulijaribu.
Ulijaribu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do something.
And I think even
But
for,
you know, Kwas Kenyan
showing
girls
up
send
for
you love
people
and
that-
light.
Yeah. Like I think showing up for people even when you're far. I'm like, I had a friend who was getting married in India and I could not make it, and it hurt me so much because she's one of my closest friends. But then I was like, kuna Amazon India. I mean, the least I can do is send her a gift to her house.
Actually, I want close friends like Nini, Dagoreti. Mimi nasikia kila mtu state India, Belgium. I want to Dagoreti.
Baraka, travel a bit. Do a short course in the
no
UK
matter my
or
close
something.
friends, in Singapore. Hakuna mtu Denderu.
Clearly, we've not shown up enough for her, for her to acknowledge that she has friends in Kenya.
There's always something you can do. You know, we have this
Yeah,
attitude
there's always
for
something you
not
can
my
do.
forest, not my monkey. 100% not your forest, but your monkey.
Yeah.
There's something that you can do.
Absolutely. And I think it goes back to the whole place of empathy. I feel like right now we are really losing the gist of empathy as human beings, you know, just being able to empathize with other people. But I think also what comes out very clearly is just that place of, first of all, communicating your expectations, and then just working, knowing that I have a flow in confronting. For me, it's a muscle that I've had to practice over the years, you know, the muscle of having those difficult conversations until now it's become
Good for you.
it's become almost very natural. Okay, I'm not
The
there
Lord
yet.
is working on us.
Let me just
Still work in progress, yeah.
which is a good thing. I mean, we all have to start somewhere, but I feel like it's a muscle that each one of us has to practice, because we can't, I mean, there's no way we can, those hard conversations will always prop up. So I think the most mature way to deal with issues is, especially because I feel like sometimes you end up losing on really good friendships because you just never tackled the issue, or you never expressed your expectations that were unmet, and then now figuring what's the way forward. But even as I would love for us to wind up this episode, but I think there's that question that I had, for me, when I look at, just different people who constitute my social support system, when we were doing the episode about navigating adversity and failure, you talked about a therapist, because I think a support system doesn't necessarily need to be just your friends who don't show up, or, you have all these expectations that they don't meet. But I think just exploring who else that maybe you've never really sat down and analyzed and thought through, who ought to be part of your support system. So I know there's therapist, but I know for me, when I was sharing about that episode in season 1 about navigating adversity and just part of my social support system, I think for me, I realized my family were really part of, for the longest time I used to ignore, or rather I never used to really invest a lot, which goes back to, just studying abroad and being away from my family for some time. So I think my value of my friends was higher than my value of my family, because when I was away as a student, my friends became my family. But I remember while navigating through that season, those friends who, it was just good vibes and, hanging out and whatnot, in that season, majority of them were not there. There were only very few of them who walked with me during that season. But the people who really stood out for me in that season were family. And for me, I got that hard lesson. And I think even politicians, it's Rigiji we had who said, your family, do not neglect your family.
Rigiji was your family.
I was like, okay.
No, he's not part of my family. But I realized for many people, when you've hit the rock bottom, like the worst of the worst of the worst, when the money is not there, the opportunities are not there, the fame or, your position is not there. Like all these things have been stripped away from you. For me, I remember in that season, my eyes were open to realize, wow, my family is one of my biggest support system through thick and thin. Literally, hao ndio walikuwa hapo consistently. They were the ones who ensured that I'm not going down that road of depression, in terms of opportunity, and really getting me out of that, season and opening my eyes to see other opportunities. They were the ones who are constantly there for me. And I think, I don't know, maybe I can throw this to us, but I realize for a lot of people, especially the younger generation, sometimes we get so caught up with, investing in friends, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think as you guys have shared, that there's been those seasons when you felt those friends were never there for you, but you heavily invested and showed up for them. But I don't know what your thoughts are, and I know we all come from different families, but for me, I remember in that season, my eyes genuinely were open to realize my family is one of my biggest support system. Through thick and thin, ni hao ndio watanipeleka down the grave when I die. Those are the guys who will be there with me. And I think for me, I realized there's a place of me honoring them and valuing them more than I would normally do. But I'd love to hear your thoughts even as we wind down.
Yeah, I think families, family dynamics are so different for so many people. Because there are people who, as much as they would want, their family is not a support system. But I would say my family is a support system. My dad is one of my biggest support systems, to be honest. Biggest encourager. He's somebody that I can have honest conversations with. My mother as well. She's somebody who's held me down in terms of prayer. And not to say that like our relationships have been like the best, I think with different seasons in your life, even as you navigate from being a child to a young adult to a full adult, your relationship with your folks changes over time. And I think for me now, we are settling into a place where we are now starting to understand each other properly. But I think when I look in hindsight, my folks have been my biggest support systems, for sure. One of my biggest support systems. I think even when I was sick with COVID, my mom kept on saying, come home. I'm like, nope. You all are old. I ain't coming to infect you with anything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But she's still there saying, hey, see, we come home, we take care of you. I would say for family, it differs from person to person. So
For
as
sure.
much as sometimes you want to say family is your biggest backbone, I do acknowledge there are people who don't feel that about their families.
That's true.
As much as I do about mine. But also just like aside from, like you said, friends becoming family. And there's that aspect of people showing up because they're friends. And I remember when you say about the small things, I remember one time my friend was moving houses. And so when she was moving houses, I remember asking her, do you need help? Like if you need help, I can avail my car. You use it. And she came back afterwards and she said, you're the only friend who asked if I needed help moving. And for me, I was like, what? What do you mean I'm the only friend? She was like, yeah, you're the only person who asked me, do you need help moving? Everyone else assumed, like, see, you're moving, it's your own problem. And I think that's now when it hit me. Yeah, what's wrong with us, honestly? Like, so we are friends for laughing and friends for everything, but even the simplest of things, we're not talking about adversity only. It's just even the simplest of things of saying, oh, you're doing this. Or if somebody hasn't maybe had a job in a long time and now they've gotten a new job, it's saying, how do you need help navigating going back into corporate? Do you need help? Because there are people who now move all this time and they don't even have clothes to go back to the office. I mean, it's those small things are saying, do you need this? What support do you need? You know, but yeah, I guess it just comes back to, I think one of the things that I got challenged was, are the expectations I'm putting on other people, am I acting on the same on my own?
Yep.
And I know I'm acting on the same on my own.
Yeah. But I think there's always room to improve. I think the whole introspective work.
Yeah, there's a lot of room to improve. But now I think I'm also at a place where I'm saying maybe I should be more honest with people about what I feel about what their friendship means to me.
Absolutely.
And how I feel they should show up. That means being a bit more confrontational, which
it's work. It's work. It's establishing anything good takes work.
It's easier to ghost, to be honest.
Yeah. But the real hard work, there's beauty that comes out of it.
It's true.
All right, Baraka.
I think for me, let me start by saying that as much as we've epitomized this thing, I've also not been like friend of the year.
Yeah.
Right? There are many guys who have not come through for when I had the opportunity to come through for. There are many times when I could have stepped up and done something better, but I didn't. So, like you said, we're still a work in progress. It's something I'm very cognizant of, something I'm working on, but also an apology to the guys who I didn't show up for.
Yeah.
When I could show up for them and I didn't. I think family is very complex, man.
Yeah.
Family is very complex. Do I love my family? 110%. Are they my support system? No. For me, I don't think it's the correct answer, but it's the truth.
It's not politically correct.
Yeah, that's why I said
But
it doesn't apply to everyone.
It's like family
But it's the
differs,
truth. You know, it's the truth. I try and say that friends are the family you choose. There's a friend of mine whose family, you know, you say the ones who are square mwisho takubeba. I feel like it's family the ones who gonna drive him to the grave. The ones who even gonna make him do that, you know. And I see how his relationship with his folks and with his sisters and everything. And I can't imagine them being support to him. I'm like, he needs support for them, you know. And families are very dynamic.
Yeah.
They're very dynamic. I think we all have a role to play in being vulnerable. I found that a way to get people to support you is by you supporting them first, you know.
And there are people who are takers and they're never givers. So they'll take from you. They'll take from you.
But
always.
I think it's also being aware, you know, just being, I think the whole, but you can finish and then I'll share my thoughts.
I think the world has some pretty unfair people.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've had to deal with some pretty unfair people.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, I'm not confrontational. And especially I'm one of those, unfortunately, one of my bad traits is once I move. I don't say, Ash, it's not working. It's not working. And Ash, this very figurative, Ash could be a sibling, could be a parent, could be
Yeah.
whoever, And so I as Baraka, I'm dealing with some of those relationships where it's just not working.
Yeah.
It's just not working, and where I need to get additional help, So I think maybe in support system, I know I have amazing friends who've been there. I think more than ever, this year has been the 1 year where I've had to spend a lot of time and money in therapy because at some point I was going to crash, and it's like, this world, and certainly saying this world is not my home. And another tale.
Another story.
Start driving at recklessly kwapo tu 180 degrees, hata kinita leo sia niite tu. Umepa na matu sema siku ya then the driver telling you siku ya kukufa lazima ifike. Wewe shuka match.
Huyo kuna mashida zake and I don't want to be part of this.
So, and for me it's even for some of my friends, and it's one of the things. This has been a very tough year for me.
Yeah.
Relationship-wise, it's been a very tough year for me.
Yeah.
Some people who I really, and I had some tough conversations, which you can tell I mustered all my strength to have this conversation, right?
Yeah.
And telling someone, this is how I wanted you to show up for me. This was my expectation of you. This is how you didn't show up. And this is what it meant to me. This is why, because of this, I don't want you. This is why I'm not reaching out to you. This is why you can, we don't hang out and everything. I've had to have 2 particularly tough conversations this year. People who are very, very close to me and people who mean a lot to me. But people who even in that moment of doing that, unfortunately, one of them made me feel like a fool for doing it. So it's even, my guy, I've taken all my strength to do this thing, I even feel worse. And guys who, if they needed support, hey, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. They will say in English, I would give my entire right hand side for.
Yeah.
This one's figuratively, I would give them my entire right hand. But like Bruno Mars said in the song Grenade, I catch a grenade, throw my hand on a blade.
Wow.
Go through all this pain, take a bullet straight to my brain, do everything.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't do the same.
Yeah. Wow.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, what a way to land. But I think just on that, what I'm also picking from today's conversation, I think there's also that reality of us as human beings having our own biases, either depending on past events that have happened, even as we navigate our friendships, our relationships with family, there's that reality of you have your own biases. And there's that place for each one of us to just sit down and take time to reflect and analyze, what are some of the biases, and being able to decipher between what is the reality and what is a bias, like what are some of the things that, because of past events I've caused this wall to come up, but it's not really the reality, and being able to also navigate the hard conversation of whether it's with family or friends, but being able to express our expectations and being able to express our needs, if at the end of the day, we'll be able to get the support that we need. But I think also the place of showing up well for people, and authenticity, are you showing up well for people? Because how you show up for people, I personally believe it's John Maxwell who says, when you're in the habit of sowing seeds, you never have to worry about the harvest. And I'm a firm believer that when I've sown good seeds, it doesn't matter whether that person never reciprocated back to me, but it's a law, it's a principle. If I sowed good seed, God will ensure that, I reap a harvest. Whether he'll send somebody different, in my time of need, it doesn't necessarily mean that the same people that you sowed good seeds towards are the ones who show up to you. But I think just that whole place of understanding that when you're in the habit of sowing good seeds, you never have to worry about the harvest. God will send the right people to assist you. And I think finally, just being able to know that it's good to categorize, your social support system, whether it's the therapist when, for my mental needs, that's the person to go to. Finances, when I need financial advice, these are the people I can go to. When I need just good times, these are the people.
Don't say financial advice, say alone.
Okay. When I need a loan, it's true. When I need corpo, these are the people I can go to when I need counsel.
Yeah,
so I think it's important to
like that one for financial. There's a day I was in a supermarket and I never used to have M-Pesa those days. And so I used to pay via card.
Those were the dark days, Bana. Damn.
And so that day I was going to pay via card and the machines were not working. And like, I really need these things. And I'm so far away from home. Do you know, I looked at that phone and I was like, who do I call? I think that's the day I questioned myself. And I said, surely. Like, I don't have anyone who I can say, send me a quick 3,000. I'll send it back to you as soon as I hit home. And I had to rethink. But I found one person, though.
Amen.
I found one person though. Like, I didn't have to call many people. Like, I called this person and I was like, send me.
Yeah.
We used to be that friend to each other. Like, he'd call me and say, send me a quick 10K. Send me a quick. And he would return it and we'd do the same. And then we crossed another along the way. Now I don't know who to be calling.
You ghosted. Now I think that's the part of navigating the hard conversation.
100k utafute mtu mwingine. 99k nitakupatia. Kwa 100 hata mwingine.
Wow.
And I think even then I have a lesson because I'm like, I know we had a conflict and I just ghosted.
You ghosted them.
And I feel ashamed now.
Wow.
But then maybe another thing to talk about and another topic is how to have those tough conversations.
We'll definitely have a sit down and also just have, because I think for me I've really grown in that area of having hard conversations. So possibly we can have it as another episode here on the 360 Perspective podcast. But would love to say a huge thank you for tuning in. I hope that you've gotten something from today's episode. Remember, just take time and reflect and analyze really who are in your support system. Do you have any? If you don't, it's time to either show up well for people or either just reflect through the biases that perhaps you may have. But I think there's been a lot to learn from today's episode. Thank you so much. Remember to subscribe, share with a friend. Let's continue inspiring and encouraging each other. But until next time, it is a goodbye from myself, Ashley, and Baraka. Thank you and see you next time.